Sell the house. I repeated, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. Ethan grinned across the table like he'd just delivered the punchline to a joke. Yeah, it's perfect timing. The market's insane right now. We could get close to 900 grand, easy. The dining room fell silent except for the clink of a glass. Balloons bobbed overhead, the gold 65 banner sagging between them. It was supposed to be Dad's birthday dinner, his night. Not another one of Ethan's performances. Dad frowned. But, son, we've lived here 30 years. That's the best part. Ethan said brightly, his wife, Lauren, nodding beside him. We'll use the money toward a new place, big house, room for everyone. You and Mom can move in with us. We'll have an in-law suite, maybe a pool for the kids. The room erupted in approval. Aunt Susan was gushing about family unity. Uncle Robert called it smart financial sense. Lauren raised her glass like we just solved world peace. Everyone except me. Because this was still my home. My room upstairs still had the same faded posters from high school, the same creaky floorboard near the dresser. After my divorce, I'd come back here, just for a while, to save money, to help take care of Dad after his stroke. Somehow, a while turned into 2 years. Dad looked at me, uncertain. But what about Emma? Every eye shifted my way. I could practically feel their pity morph into judgment. Ethan chuckled, swirling his wine. Emma will be fine. She's 32, it's time she learned to stand on her own 2 feet. Mom smiled like that settled it. He's right, sweetheart. You've been here long enough. My throat tightened. And where exactly am I supposed to go? Ethan shrugged. You'll figure it out. You always land on your feet, right? The table burst into toasts. To new beginnings. Lauren cheered. To family. Aunt Susan added. I stared at my plate, the roast chicken gone cold, as laughter filled the room. No one saw the way Dad's hand trembled or how his smile faltered. They were celebrating my eviction, on his birthday. When the clinking glasses faded, I stood and said quietly, then I guess it's time for my new beginning too. No one looked up. But Dad did. And for a second, his eyes said what no one else dared to, I'm sorry. It's embarrassing having her live here like some kind of teenager. Ethan's voice sliced through the chatter like a knife. My grip tightened around the edge of my chair. What hurt most wasn't his words, it was watching Mom and Dad nod along as if he'd said something reasonable. Dad, who I'd been taking care of since his heart attack 6 months ago, just sat there, silent, letting my brother tear me apart in front of everyone. I think this will be good for everyone, Lauren added sweetly, with that fake smile she used when pretending to care. Emma needs to learn independence, and you two deserve your freedom back. When are you putting the house on the market? Aunt Susan asked, eyes bright. As soon as possible, Ethan said proudly. I talked to a realtor friend. She can have it listed by the end of the week if we move fast. The end of the week. I finally found my voice. You're giving me less than 7 days to find a place to live. Ethan shrugged. That's plenty of time. There are tons of apartments if you're not picky. Mom chimed in, and it's not like you have much to move. Most of what's in your room is just old stuff anyway. I looked around the table, the same table where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, and all I saw were strangers. People smiling, nodding, agreeing like this was the best family decision ever made. I need some air, I muttered, standing up. Don't be dramatic, Ethan called after me. You should thank us. This is what growing up looks like. The porch air was cool, sharp with autumn. I stared at the dark yard, remembering late nights out here with Dad, talking about life and plans and the future. Now I was being evicted from the house I'd spent 2 years maintaining, painting, fixing the porch steps, paying bills when Dad couldn't. Inside, laughter erupted again, my family celebrating my eviction. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and stopped on a name that suddenly felt like my lifeline. Daniel Carter. Senior partner at Carter and Miles Real Estate Law. He'd been my divorce attorney once, but we'd stayed in touch. Tough, fair, and one of the few people who treated me like I mattered. He picked up on the second ring. Emma. Everything okay? Daniel, I need your help. It's urgent, I whispered, glancing at the front door. Can you pull up property records for 317 Oak Ridge Lane? Sure, give me a minute. I could hear him typing. Okay, what am I looking for? I need to know who owns it. And if there are any liens, mortgages, anything like that. A pause. Then his tone changed, that clipped, professional voice he used when something didn't add up. That's interesting. The property isn't listed under Robert and Linda Hayes. It's owned by something called Silverpine Holdings LLC. There's a mortgage attached, and, wait, this is odd. My heart thudded. What's odd? Looks like there was a foreclosure about 18 months ago. The original owners defaulted, and Silverpine bought it at auction 14 months back. So my parents don't actually own the house anymore, I said quietly. Not according to these records, Daniel confirmed. Then, hesitating, Emma, how did you even know to ask about this? I drew in a steady breath. Because, Daniel. I am Silverpine Holdings. The line went silent. You bought your parents' house, he asked finally. When Dad had his heart attack, I found out they were months behind on payments, I said softly. I couldn't let them lose everything. So I bought it through my company, just never told anyone. Inside, their laughter carried through the glass. But for the first time that night, I smiled. They thought they could throw me out. They didn't even know they were living in my house. They were about to lose the house, I said quietly, staring out into the dark yard. But they were too proud to tell anyone. So I used my divorce settlement to buy the property at the foreclosure auction and let them keep living here. I just never told them. Emma, Daniel said slowly, that's unbelievably generous. But why keep it a secret? Because they'd be humiliated, I replied. Dad's always taken pride in being a homeowner, in taking care of us. I thought I could help them stabilize, then transfer it back when things got better. But now Ethan's trying to sell it, Daniel said, his tone sharp. Exactly. He thinks he can kick me out and sell a house he doesn't even own. And my parents are going along with it because they have no idea. What do you want me to do? He asked. I need the paperwork showing I'm the legal owner. And send a cease and desist to any realtor who even thinks about listing it. On it, Daniel said. Give me an hour. But, Emma, you'll have to tell them eventually. I know, I said softly. Tonight. When I hung up, the laughter from inside drifted through the windows, Ethan's voice carrying above everyone else's, confident and smug. I sat on the porch steps, letting the weight of what I was about to do settle in my chest. My phone buzzed. Daniel, documents ready. Cease and desist sent to 3 local agents. You own that property free and clear. Good luck. I stood, squared my shoulders, and walked back inside. The family was still gathered around the table, now brainstorming renovation ideas for Ethan's fantasy mansion. A wine cellar would be amazing, Lauren said, eyes sparkling. And a home theater. Uncle Rob added. Oh, and maybe a pool house, Aunt Susan chimed in. Ethan looked up, smirking. Well, look who decided to rejoin us. You done sulking? Actually, I said calmly, I have something important to tell you all. If you're going to beg to stay, Ethan cut in, save it. The decision's made. I'm not begging, I said. I just got off the phone with my attorney. Mom groaned. Emma, you can't afford an attorney. Stop being ridiculous. His name's Daniel Carter, Carter and Miles Real Estate Law. Dad looked up, frowning. Why would you be talking to a real estate lawyer? Because I wanted to understand what happens when someone tries to sell a house they don't own, I said evenly. Ethan snorted. What are you even talking about? Mom and Dad do own this house. No, I said, voice steady. They don't. The chatter stopped cold. Every face turned toward me. That's ridiculous, Ethan said, though his confidence wavered. They've lived here for 30 years. They lived here, I corrected. But they haven't owned it for the last 14 months. Dad's face drained of color. Emma, what are you saying? When you had your heart attack, I found out the truth, I said gently. You'd fallen behind on mortgage payments, almost a year behind. The bank started foreclosure. You were 3 months away from losing everything. Mom shook her head, voice trembling. No, that can't be right. We worked out a payment plan. No, Mom, I said softly. The bank sold the property at auction to settle the debt. Ethan's face tightened. If that's true, then who owns it now? I took a breath, feeling the entire room holding theirs. I do. The silence hit like a shockwave. Forks froze midair. Glasses hung suspended. No one spoke. Finally, Dad whispered, You bought our house. I nodded. I couldn't let you lose it. Across the table, Ethan's smirk was gone. Completely. Everyone stared at me like I'd just confessed to a crime. That's impossible, Ethan said finally, his voice cracking. You don't have that kind of money. My divorce settlement, I said evenly. When Ryan and I split, I got half, house, investments, business. About $900,000. Lauren's jaw dropped. You had $900,000 and you've been living here like you're broke. I used most of it to buy this house at auction and pay off the mortgage, I said. I wanted to make sure Mom and Dad still had a home. Mom's eyes filled with tears. But why didn't you tell us? Because I knew you'd be embarrassed, I said softly. Dad's always been proud of being the provider. I thought if I kept quiet, you could get back on your feet, and I'd transfer the deed back once things stabilized. Ethan shook his head, still in disbelief. So when I said we were going to sell the house, you were talking about selling my house, I finished. Without my permission. Dad's voice trembled. But you let us think we still owned it. I didn't want you to feel like you'd lost everything, I said. I was trying to protect you. The room erupted into chaos. This is insane. Ethan shouted. You can't just buy someone's house behind their back. She saved our home. Mom cried. She lied to you. Aunt Susan argued. She was trying to help. Uncle Rob countered. Through the shouting, Dad sat motionless, his eyes fixed on me. Then he raised a hand, silencing everyone. Emma, he said slowly. Are you telling me that when we were about to lose this house, you used your divorce money to save it? Yes, I said. And you've been letting us live here, rent-free, for over a year? Yes. And you never said anything because you didn't want us to feel ashamed? I nodded. That's right. Dad was quiet for a long time. Then he laughed, not with joy, but with disbelief, regret, and heartbreak all tangled together. We've been treating you like a burden, he said hoarsely. Like some freeloader who couldn't take care of herself. Robert, Mom whispered, tears streaming down her face. We didn't know, Dad said, shaking his head. We should have known. We should have asked, instead of assuming the worst. Ethan was still processing, his voice small now. So you're saying I can't sell the house? It's not yours to sell, I said firmly. It's mine. And I decide what happens to it. But what about our plans? Lauren blurted. The new house, the pool, the in-law suite. You'll have to make other plans, I said calmly. This is ridiculous. Ethan exploded. You can't ruin everything because you're jealous. I'm not ruining anything, I said, meeting his glare. I'm protecting my investment. If you want a bigger house, buy one with your own money. We were counting on the sale of this house. Lauren cried. You were counting on money that doesn't belong to you, I said simply. The argument raged for another 20 minutes, Ethan growing more desperate, Lauren near tears, until Ethan slammed his hand on the table. Fine, he snapped. If that's how it's going to be, we're done. Mom, Dad, you need to choose. Either she goes, or we do. The room went still. Mom and Dad exchanged a look that seemed to last forever. Then Dad turned to Ethan. You want us to choose? He asked quietly. Yes, Ethan said, trying to sound confident. Choose between your successful son who's trying to take care of this family, or your failure daughter who's been lying to you. Dad stood up, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought he'd side with him, he always had before. But instead, he walked over to me and placed his hand on my shoulder. I choose the daughter who saved our home, he said firmly, when we were too proud to ask for help. I choose the daughter who spent her divorce settlement making sure we still had a roof over our heads, Dad said, his voice steady. The daughter who's been taking care of me since my heart attack, even though we've treated her like she was the one who needed saving. Mom stood beside him, tears in her eyes. I choose the daughter who gave up her own financial security to protect this family, she said, her voice trembling. The one who stayed, not because she needed us, but because we needed her. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're choosing her over me. We're choosing the one who's actually been taking care of us, Dad said. While you've been planning how to profit from what you thought was your house, she's been paying the bills and keeping the lights on. This is ridiculous, Ethan snapped, grabbing Lauren's hand. Come on, we're leaving. Ethan, wait, Mom pleaded. He stopped at the doorway and turned back, anger flashing in his eyes. If this is how it is, don't expect any help from me. And don't expect to see your grandkids again. He stormed out, Lauren trailing behind him. Aunt Susan and Uncle Rob exchanged awkward glances before quietly slipping out too. Within minutes, the house that had been full of noise was silent again. I sat down on the couch, my hands shaking slightly. I'm sorry, I said finally. I should have told you everything from the start. Dad shook his head. No, sweetheart. We're the ones who owe you an apology. We let Ethan convince us you were the problem when you were the one holding this family together. I can't believe how blind we were, Mom whispered. All this time, you've been the one keeping us afloat, and we treated you like you were a burden. You're not failures, I said softly. You hit a rough patch. Dad got sick, bills piled up, it happens. I just didn't want pride to cost us our home. Dad sighed deeply. If you hadn't stepped in, we'd have lost everything. Mom nodded. You saved us. So, what now? Dad asked quietly. This is your house. Do you want us to move out? I looked around at the photos on the wall, the furniture we'd had since I was a kid. No, I said. This is our home. I bought it to keep it in the family. You're not going anywhere. Mom hesitated. But Ethan. Ethan made his choice, I said firmly. He chose pride and money over family. That's on him. Dad looked at me. And if he comes back? If he apologizes? Then we'll talk, I said. But he has to accept the truth, that this house isn't for sale and that respect goes both ways. Weeks passed before I heard from him again. One afternoon, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "Emma," he said quietly. "I've been thinking about what happened." I waited. "I was wrong," he said finally. "I didn't know what you'd done for Mom and Dad. I didn't know you saved the house." "You also didn't ask," I reminded him. "I know," he said. "I was too focused on what I wanted. I didn't stop to think about what anyone else needed. I was awful." Lauren and I realized how out of line we were. "What changed?" I asked. "We found another house," he said. "It's smaller than what we planned, but we can afford it without selling yours." "That's good to hear," I said quietly. He paused. "Emma, I was wondering if we could fix this. I miss Mom and Dad. The kids miss them too. And I miss having a sister." I didn't answer right away. Ethan had hurt me deeply, but he was still my brother. Family, I'd learned, was complicated, but sometimes, even broken things can be repaired if someone's willing to try. "We can try," I said finally. "But there are going to be some ground rules." "Whatever you want," Ethan said quickly. "First, you apologize to Mom and Dad, not just for the house, but for how you've treated me." "Done," he said. "Second, you stop acting like I'm some kind of failure or burden. I'm an adult, and I make my own choices." "Absolutely." "And third," I added, "you never make plans involving someone else's property without their permission again." "Never," he promised. It wasn't an instant fix. Family never is. The reconciliation took months of cautious dinners, tense silences, and careful words before things began to soften. But over time, Ethan and Lauren settled into their new home, the one they'd bought themselves, with the backyard pool their kids had begged for. Mom and Dad stayed right where they belonged, in the home they'd built their lives in. And me? I finally felt like the cracks in our family were starting to heal. The best part was seeing Dad's health turn around once the weight of losing the house was gone. He was back in the garden again, trimming the hedges and fixing the porch railing like he used to. One evening, we sat out there together, watching the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. "You know something funny?" Dad said, a half-smile playing on his lips. "What's that?" I asked. "Ethan spent years calling you the failure of the family," he said. "But you're the one who ended up being the most successful of all of us." I laughed softly. "How do you figure that?" "Because success isn't about how much money you make or what kind of title you have," Dad said. "It's about showing up for the people you love when they need you. It's about doing the hard things, the right things, even when no one's watching. It's about heart." He paused, his eyes softening. "And by that measure, Emma, you're the most successful person I know." The night air was warm, the sound of crickets humming in the background as I looked out at the home I'd fought to keep. For the first time in a long while, everything felt peaceful. Dad was right. Success wasn't the house, or the money, or even being proven right. It was standing by your family when they fell, forgiving when you could have walked away, and choosing love over pride. Ethan learned that too, eventually, and in the end, that made all the difference.